We've got some extra special polling, though, today. And this is polling that I commissioned because I really wanted to know the answer. And I did it exclusively for this podcast. We asked whether the following would do a better or a worse job than Keir Starmer at being Prime Minister. And I have to say, it's actually potentially quite good news for the incumbent Keir Starmer, because the only person we asked about who got a positive rating from the public at large, the public in general, saying he'd be better than Starmer, is Andy Burnham. 29% thought he would be better, 11% thought he'd be worse. That gives him a net score, an overall score of +8. All the rest, Shabana Mahmood, Ed Miliband, Angela Rayner, Wes Streeting, all of them were seen as worse. They got net negative scores. But just to go through, that's Wes Streeting at -5, Shabana Mahmood at -11, Ed Miliband at -16, and Angela Rayner at -23. We also asked whether or not voters would support or oppose Angela Rayner coming back. 22% support her going back, 49% would be opposed. She's got great numbers amongst Labour folk, but amongst voters as a whole, it just doesn't cut it, it seems to me.
Yes, it's the great Rayner divide, isn't it, between that popularity, even a hankering to have her back on the field of play in Labour, and the public not so much. Also noticeable, really fascinating, that polling there in terms of showing that it's still an unpopularity contest, as much as people in Labour seem to think they're lining up for Britain's Got Talent.
Good day and welcome back to British Report. Right, if you hear a massive crack coming from Westminster, do not worry. That is just the sound of the Labour government's fragile unity shattering into 1,000 pieces, courtesy of the most powerful and significant betrayal yet. We are talking about the explosive news that former Deputy Prime Minister and political powerhouse Angela Rayner has thrown her immense weight and her immense political ambition behind a massive opposition rebellion against Keir Starmer's flagship legal reforms. The Prime Minister is not just facing opposition, he is exploding with rage as his former cabinet colleague sides with what is now a 40 to 50 strong rebellion of Labour MPs, all fighting against Justice Secretary David Lammy's deeply controversial plan to scrap jury trials for crimes carrying sentences of less than 3 years. This is not about policy. This is about power. This is about Rayner deliberately undermining Starmer and Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy, opening up a gaping wound in the government's flank and positioning herself as the only credible alternative to the crumbling leadership. This is a coup attempt dressed up in the robes of judicial integrity. Quick favour, if you are utterly fascinated by the level of backstabbing, the sheer political chaos and the outright panic gripping the Prime Minister's office right now, you need to hit that subscribe button. Over 92% of viewers haven't yet. It's free, takes a second and means the world to us. Thanks, if you did. Now back to the show, because what we are witnessing is the beginning of the end for Starmer's government. The core issue is a deeply cynical move by David Lammy, who, as Deputy Prime Minister and Justice Secretary, has proposed one of the most significant erosions of civil liberties in modern British history. Lammy's justification is simple and technocratic. Scrapping the right to trial by jury for less serious crimes, those with a likely sentence of less than 3 years, will help reduce the backlog facing courts and expedite justice for victims. Now, while the Crown Court backlog is indeed a genuine emergency, sitting at over 3 text 178,000 toll cases, the solution proposed is, according to the rebels, fundamentally unjust. They are arguing that this change essentially halves the number of jury trials available, turning a fundamental right dating back to Magna Carta into a luxury reserved only for the elite facing the most serious charges. And this is where Angela Rayner strides onto the scene, positioning herself as the champion of the working class and the defender of ancient rights. Rayner, who still looms large over the Labour Party even after her resignation as Housing Secretary over that ongoing unpaid stamp duty scandal, is reportedly deeply concerned about the judicial reforms. Why? Because she and her allies believe this is a political gift-wrapped bomb for the opposition, especially Reform UK. The rebels are warning that Starmer and Lammy's plan creates an us and them system that disproportionately penalises the working class and minorities, the very people most reliant on the perceived fairness of a jury of their peers. One Labour MP told The Telegraph that Rayner is concerned that the government's action will allow Reform UK to weaponise the changes, furthering the party's narrative of the government versus the public. This is the genius of Rayner's move. She is not just arguing on principle, she is arguing on political survival. She is telling Starmer that his policy is so politically toxic, so easily framed as an attack on British justice and civil liberties, with some rebels sensationally comparing the plans to Putin's Russia, that it will actively accelerate the decline in Labour's polls and further fuel the reform insurgency that is already eating away at the Labour base. Even the Reform Party is saying they will defend the juries, setting up a devastating alliance against the government. While only 15 Labour MPs signed the initial statement calling for the plans to be abandoned, the number of those privately backing the rebellion is reported to be 3 times that, a terrifying 40 to 50 potential rebels. This is enough to cause Starmer a major headache, especially given that he has already been forced to climb down on major issues such as welfare reform after Rayner brokered a deal with rebels earlier this year. The true goal of this rebellion, however, is not to save juries. It is to oust David Lammy and, by extension, fatally wound Keir Starmer. One Labour MP was brutally frank about the ulterior motive. If Lammy was to set his cap out and then failed to deliver the reforms, he looks to me as though he could well be in trouble. And the punchline? Lammy being ousted could leave an opening for Rayner. This is the classic Westminster coup tactic. Target the number 2 to weaken the number 1. Rayner, who Starmer has previously said he wants to bring back into the cabinet, is seen as the overwhelming frontrunner to take his place should the party face a full-blown leadership crisis. A crisis now widely anticipated if May's local elections go badly. Starmer's position is not merely precarious, it is collapsing. He is trapped between the 2 most ambitious, politically astute people in his own party. Andy Burnham, the King of the North, who is reportedly lining up a common seat for a direct challenge, and Angela Rayner, the political street fighter who is now openly joining with the opposition against his policy. With other ambitious challengers like Health Secretary Wes Streeting and Deputy Leader Lucy Powell also circling, Starmer's Labour government is looking less like a unified force and more like a collection of ambitious rivals waiting for the starter pistol. Rayner's decision to join the jury trial rebellion is the most significant public show of no confidence in Starmer's leadership yet, confirming that the political knives are not just out, they are actively carving up the Prime Minister's political future. The only question now is whether the May elections will be the trigger or if this judicial rebellion will bring the curtain down even sooner. Thank you so much for watching.